Look at verse 13. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted with evil. He himself tempts no one. So I already kind of mentioned this before. God cannot tempt you. He'll give you a trial. So there's only two sources for your temptation. Either it's Satan, who tempts you externally, or your desires that tempt you internally. Do you see that? Either Satan tempts you externally or you tempt yourself internally. Here's what I mean. Satan never tempts you with a foreign desire. Satan tempts you with something you already naturally desire. What I mean by this is that not a single day in my life have I ever been tempted to eat kale, because it is not in my natural desire to like kale. So Satan never waved kale in my face and I've never been tempted. Do you see what I'm saying? You can't blame Satan for making you do something as if it went against your desires. Satan made me eat a salad even though I don't want to eat a salad. That's not how temptation works. You know how Satan tempts you? He studies you and he knows your desires and he entices you with your own desire. That's the way James talks about it. Look at verse 14. Each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. You're trapping yourself with your own desire. Satan uses your desire and he magnifies that desire to make you trap yourself. And so the word desire here, or lust, is an interesting word. It's the word epi-desire. You guys know that? Epi, right? EpiPen, epidemic. It's an intensified thing. So here's what temptation is. It is an intensified desire. Lust by itself is not a negative term. It's not even a sexual term. It just means a super strong desire. This word lust was actually used to describe Jesus when he said, I desire to see you again, to his disciples during his final Passover meal in the gospel. So having a desire that's really strong is not a problem. The question is, what do you desire? If you had an epi-desire for Christ, you think that's a problem? No, that's what he wants, right? The problem is we have an epi-desire for something else in place of Christ. And so having desire to, take care of your family, that's not a bad thing. But if this is an epi-desire that's overtaken your life, then that's a temptation, that's a problem. How do you know it's an epi-desire? If your time, your resources, your thoughts, and everything is circling around this. This is the final determining factor for all the decisions you're making. How do you schedule your time? How do you spend your money? What dominates your thought? It could be a good thing. Family is a good thing, but if family is an epi-desire, it's an idol. Career is a good thing. God created Adam to work before the fall. Work is not a sinful thing. But if it's an epi-desire that's overtaking your life, because I'm just a hard worker, no, you're a workaholic that idolizes work, that's a problem. That's how you know when something's a temptation. You know what Satan does? He magnifies that desire in you. He's like, Andrew, he already knows, you like to work, Andrew. Work more. Don't you like being recognized? Just work a little more, be recognized even more. Don't you like to be respected, Andrew? I know you like to be respected. Don't let that person disrespect you. Get respected, do more. And what he does, he entices you with the natural desires you already have, and he makes it an epi-desire. And then he presents that as a bait, and the more you bite that bait, the more you get hooked, and that's what we call addictions. People are not just addicted to substance. People are addicted to careers, addicted to their family, addicted to their self-respect, addicted to their image, addicted to their money, addicted to their homes, addicted to there's all sorts of things people are addicted. Netflix, phones, what? Right? It's endless. What is that epi-desire? That is what is enticing you and luring you. Look at verse 15. Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. This is a picture. The epi-desire starts off as if it's a woman who is pregnant. But what happens over time? It grows, it grows, it grows, and then she gives birth to what? Sin, and sin grows up to be what? Death. Do you see the evolution? How did sin and destruction and death come into your life? How does sin come in and destroy your marriage, and destroy your relationship, and destroy your peace with God? How did that happen? It started all with an epi-desire. The problem isn't that we have desires. The problem is, what do we desire and where is it being directed? So the solution isn't to be like, I have no desires and be like a Buddhist monk. That's impossible. You're created to have desires. We are all created to worship something. The problem is that we have epi-desires for the wrong things in life. That we're not placing it all on Jesus, but we're trying to find our fulfillment in our kids. We're trying to find our significance in our significant other. We're trying to find our importance in our career. We're trying to find our security and wealth. We're trying to find all these things and idols all around us, and what that's just doing is baiting us more and more into this trap, and it's just going to keep growing until it becomes sin and death in your life. The word death is not literally just physical death. It refers to separation and destruction. right? If you see a chaotic, destroyed life where you're separated from God, you're separated from others, there's just a lot of destruction, what's going on there? You haven't checked that epi-desire. You're failing the test of temptation, in other words. As you go through the test of temptation, you know there's a way that you can get out of that every time. Every time. I mentioned before, 1 Corinthians 10:13, no temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond your ability, but with the temptation, he will provide the way of escape that you may be able to endure it. Way of escape refers to a home during this time, a wealthy person's home. Actually, it wasn't like this, but you get the picture. So if they're surrounded by soldiers and you're trapped, what wealthy people often had, they had a tunnel that went underground that took them out to the field so they can escape when they're completely surrounded. This is the word Paul's using for way of escape. You know what he's saying? When you are surrounded by your desires and this taking is so strong and you feel like, and do you notice he said, and this is common to man. You're not the only one to struggle with this desire. I think that's a very gracious thing Paul is saying. It's not like you're the worst sinner of all kinds. A lot of people have struggled with this. But when you are trapped by your strong desire, you don't have to let that overtake you. God will provide this way of escape every time. You need to zoom out and see things from God's perspective instead of your own. And what does it mean to look at your perspective or your situation from God's perspective? Wisdom. Wisdom will show you the way out. And the way of escape is always the way that leads back to Jesus. When in doubt, which way leads you back to Jesus? Because you know what? These desires, temptation is not going to lead you to Jesus. The minute you just took that bait the first time, sin is fun. It tastes good the first time. Because if sin wasn't fun, we wouldn't struggle with it, right? If sin tastes like kale, none of us would sin. Sin is hard because it is. But sin, what it does, it promises you more than what it can actually deliver. It gives you an initial dopamine hit, but it can never give you eternal joy. That's what sin does. And sin does not lead you back to Christ because it just leads you to be hooked onto that epi-desire, whatever that desire is in your life.